This is the human heart. Central to our physical body, our survival, revered by poets throughout history as the emotional center of our being. The place we instinctively touch when asked to point to ourselves. And now, what we have known intuitively is being understood scientifically. Researchers are unlocking a new science of the heart that could change everything we know about health and our interconnected nature. Coherence is a state of balance between heart, mind, and emotions, creating a favorable cascade of neural, hormonal, and biochemical events that benefit the entire body. But this phenomenon not only benefits us personally, it affects everything around us, emitting an electromagnetic field that can be measured up to 3 feet outside of the body. When you are in coherence, your heart resonates at the same frequency as the Earth's magnetic field. This frequency positively affects everything around you. When a group of people are in coherence together, this effect is magnified. Could communities synchronized in coherence lower violence, accelerate cooperation, and global harmony? This is the purpose of the Global Coherence Pulse. If we can measure the impact of thousands of people in coherence at the same time, it could lead to a breakthrough in understanding the full potential of the human heart. All you need to participate is your presence and your heart. To take it to the next level, join the research study by downloading the app and getting an HRV monitor to measure your personal coherence. The world needs it more than ever before. Each human heart is unique and magnificent by itself. But imagine what could be possible when we unify.
Welcome, everyone. It is such a special time that we get to gather here today for this Global Coherence Pulse. I don't think there's ever been quite such a pivotal moment in history for humans, as many things are converging. We had the recent Chinese New Year. Astrologically, I believe it was Saturn just went to 0 degrees Aries. I was on a call about that the other day. And here we are to converge our hearts, our minds, and our spirits, and to pulse the planet with love. And as HeartMath always reminds us, to help love go viral. So thank you wherever in the world you're joining. I've seen people joining us from Europe, from Canada, from the United States, and all around the world. Thank you for choosing to invest time in the consciousness and the love that we choose to pulse the planet with. So if you haven't already shared in the chat, please go ahead and share where you're pulsing the planet from. I'm joining you from Lisbon this evening. I love all the hearts. Thank you all. I am Jennifer Cahill, and it is my privilege and honor to get to collaborate with the Global Coherence Pulse and occasionally to get to host these in conjunction with my dear friend Teresa Collins and Claire, and as well as Annette and Roland and the incredible HeartMath team that all make this possible, as well as our behind-the-scenes team, Kaylin, who doesn't always get all the love he deserves, but just want you to know that he's back there being sure that all of this goes swimmingly well for all of us. So today we're going to introduce you in a few minutes here to a very special guest who is a dear friend, incredible thought leader, and pioneer in healing, energy medicine, and the future of how we're going to heal ourselves and one another and the planet. And for any of you out there who have been on a journey of healing, we all know healing is an inside-out job. So that said, as we talk about tonight, the topic of the show, of this idea of the intersection of grace and power, and how we can have grace in power, I'm going to invite us today to begin with some heart-focused breathing. A little bit later, Shamini is going to take us through a beautiful meditative experience as well. Though I want to ground us today in this state that we find ourselves in the world in. Wherever you're at and whatever state you're in, let's pause for a moment and let's pulse the planet with love. So go ahead and gently shut your eyes, uncross your arms and legs. If it feels right, you can place one or both hands on your heart or keep them resting on your thighs and begin to focus your attention in the area of your heart or chest. Imagine that your breath is flowing in and out, right through the center of your heart or chest, breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual, finding an easy rhythm that's comfortable for you. As you continue allowing slow, deep, heart-focused breaths, begin to play with your breath and see if you can breathe in to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and breathe out to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's allow a couple more slow, deep, heart-focused breaths in and out together, imagining that the heart itself is doing the breathing. And perhaps on one of your next inhalations, let's see if we can imagine breathing in love. Imagine connecting to a time where you felt love. Love for maybe a family member or friend or place or an animal. Or for yourself, whatever that love is. Let's breathe that in together. Breathing in the love. And once more, pulsing that love to everything and everyone around us, to all of our brothers and sisters around the world who can't be here with us right now. Let's send them a little love as well. Let's do that 2 more times, allowing another slow, deep, heart-focused breath. Breathing in and really feeling that love, connecting to that vivid, visceral feeling. And once more, pulsing that love. Imagine bathing the entire planet, the city you're in, the state you're in with this love. And one more time, let's allow one more slow, deep, heart-focused breath in through the center of our heart or chest, feeling that love light up every cell in our being. And one more time, let's pulse the field with love. Just breathe that in, feel that connection we have to one another, to all things around the world. And coming back into this moment, beginning to wiggle your fingers and toes, feel your feet upon the floor. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, I hope that helped us all to come into a greater state of coherence, because that is the purpose, that is why we are all here. And we come the 3rd Saturday of every month, is to come into a field of coherence that we then get to share not only with one another, but with the entire world. This is one of my favorite techniques. I do it on myself every single day. That was heart-focused breathing by HeartMath, if you're not familiar with it. We love partnering with HeartMath, and we're so grateful to be able to have this ability to pulse and love together and help love go viral. So without further ado, everyone, we're going to go ahead and introduce you to the esteemed Dr. Shamini Jain. Shamini is the founder and president of the Conscious and Healing Initiative, which is a 501c3 social profit platform. It's an international collaboration of scientists, healing practitioners, educators, and artists who lead humanity to heal ourselves, as we were just referring to. Dr. Jain is a clinical psychologist and award-winning researcher, an author in psychoneuroimmunology, integrative health, and biofield science. She also serves as an adjunct professor at UC San Diego's Department of Family Medicine, where she supports research education within UCSD's Centers for Integrative Health. Dr. Jain has appeared on national television placements, done 2 TEDx talks, and regular talks at universities, as well as leading health conferences and retreat centers. Her 2-time award-winning book, Healing Ourselves, Biofield Science, and the Future of Health, is available from booksellers worldwide. Shamini, I'm so grateful to have you in my life and to know all of the beautiful work you do. And I know you have a special thing coming up with Bruce Lipton on Tuesday. So for those of you Bruce fans, we'll be dropping that in the chat, where you can get more Shamini and more Bruce this Tuesday. So we'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat for you. Shamini, such a pleasure to have you here, my friend.
Thank you. What an honor to be here and to be in community and coherence with all of you. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the invitation, and deeply, deeply grateful to be here with you all right now. I'd like to open with sound itself, which is not just even the embodiment of consciousness, but consciousness itself, to just bring a little sweetness to us where there's been a lot of not so sweet happenings lately. So let's tune into the sound just for a moment and let it guide you back into your heart before we have some discussion on what power really is and how we can come into alignment with it. The purity of sound is indeed the purity of energy, the purity of power, and the purity of consciousness. In a world that is getting increasingly noisy and creating a sense of despair, I'm going to name it. There are those of us who are watching what has been happening, who feel great sadness at some of the decisions that have been made by people in the field that have been unskillful. We are facing the disillusion of false systems of power that have been based in models and understandings, false understandings of separation, of scarcity, of fear, greed, and lust. And this is part of the human journey. We all know that. This is not new. But it is a very interesting time that we are being faced, even here in the consciousness and healing field, because we are not immune to the humanness of the people within our sphere and in ourselves. None of us are immune to the shadow. And there has been much discussion about power. There are lots of things that people say about taking our power back, or even speaking truth to power. But I'd like us to first consider what power really is. And once we understand what power really is, how might we align with the grace of what power really is? Because power is indeed no different than grace. So let's look at the actual definition of power, just from vernacular. For example, from the Latin origin of the word itself, power. The Latin origin of the word stems from a term potus, which means the capable use of energy. If you look at the physics definition of power, it also speaks to the amount of energy needed to transfer or to transform something. So there has always been this linkage with the understanding of power, with energy, even from basic physics and even from the Latin origins of the English term power. But what's also very interesting is that when you look at the word power and you understand what its meaning was in so many spiritual traditions across the world, which also form the basis for indigenous systems of medicine, we realize that power is energy. Truly, it is energy. And when we look at it from the spiritual perspective, as all of these cultures across the world have, whether they named it Ashe, Musubi, Shakti itself, it is the animating force that enlivens me, you, and the entire universe. What does this mean? This means that coming into power is nothing other than coming back into the fullness of who we are as living, vibrating, energetic, conscious beings. That is true power. And when we recognize that power is not something that separates us, power is not something that is in a hierarchy, it's in a heterarchy. It is in a network because it is the animating force that connects all of us. In modern times and in modern science, we've been exploring this aspect of what we call power as energy in terms that we've called, for example, the biofield. It's a term that I'm kind of known for. I wrote a book on it called Healing Ourselves, Biofield Science and the Future of Health. I've spent a lot of decades exploring this power or this energy in the context of healing, and specifically in energy healing therapies like Reiki, healing touch, therapeutic touch, laying on of hands, and so many. There is an understanding that coming into our power means allowing us to flow with the divine grace that realigns the soul and spirit with the energetic, psychological, and physical aspects of our being. And this is what healers do. And this is what alignment with power really is. Now, what about grace? How does grace fit into this? Well, as I've mentioned in the ancient and modern spiritual traditions, this understanding of power as energy isn't just sort of a vernacular understanding of energy. It's an understanding that what we call Shakti, for example, in my tradition, is the embodiment of the divine feminine. If consciousness, known as Shiva in our traditions, in the Vedic and Tantric traditions, which is the formless oneness, consciousness beyond form, comes into the world, how does it do that? It comes into the world through the manifest power of the divine feminine known as Shakti. This is again the power that takes consciousness from the formless into form so that we can celebrate every embodiment of divine power that exists in this universe. And so there is this deep linkage with the divine feminine and power. When we allow for the divine feminine aspects of our being to guide the healing process, we are now aligned with the graces of power. These are the qualities of the divine feminine that exist in all of us, regardless of how we identify sexually or gender-wise. These are the qualities of energy that we can even feel into in its energetic qualities, in the elemental forces, such as fire, earth, air, water, space, that we can realign ourselves with if we find ourselves being pulled off course by things that are happening into the world or just struggling with things that are happening into our own lives. So I wanted to introduce you to some embodiments of these graces of power and explore how you can link in with these graces of power. Now, again, I'm going to be showing you embodiments of these graces of power from the traditions that I grew up with in the East Indian tradition. So really sharing these embodiments of the graces of power from the Vedic traditions mostly and the Tantric traditions to some degree. You can revere these as goddesses. You could look at them as archetypes, as some do. I think they're beyond archetypes personally. I think they're living embodiments of our consciousness. And if you don't ascribe to Hindu culture or Hindu religion, you don't have to. This is not about praying to an outside deity. This is recognizing those qualities of grace that are within you, that you might align in a different culture, such as Christianity, Judaism, or other cultures, because they exist in every culture. I just share the ones that I am more resonant with from my culture. So with all of those caveats, and explanations, let's dive into some of these beautiful graces of power and how they can help us along our way now so that we can really realign and come into coherence in sometimes what is a very incoherent world. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
And I'm going to just make sure that we're in the slideshow mode here. Okay.
Perfect.
So we'll be talking about 4 main embodiments of the graces of power today. And I'll be focusing both on the energetic qualities as well as what these embodiments help us with in the daily lives, sort of the practical aspects of these graces. First, we come into Durga Ma. Durga Ma, you may know in the Vedic traditions as the mother goddess. She is considered the embodiment of all of the divine feminine, really, in the Vedic tradition. And just take a look here. I really wanted to show you these graphics to give you a felt sense of the power that are sort of behind these manifestations of grace. Here you see her sitting, of course, on a very regal and potentially ferocious animal, sometimes depicted as a lion, but also sometimes as a tiger. You see her holding many weapons as well, and yet there's a benevolent look on her face, and of course much light around her. Now these weapons are weapons that are aligned for us for the spiritual world, but also in the daily world. And you see her riding fairly comfortably. I don't know how comfortable I would be if I was sitting on a tiger like that, in that position, but she seems actually quite comfortable with riding this tiger. In some traditions, this tiger is known as our passions, right? Or even our vital force. And so here already you see this sense of mastery, of having mastery over one's own energy in this depiction. And the different weapons, which could be seen as weapons to slay foes in the outer world, are also weapons that we use to slay the things that keep us out of alignment with our soul and our deepest aspects of our consciousness. This includes the discus, which represents the flow of time, among other things. The sword, which is a weapon towards gaining greater discernment. The lotus, which is the promise of liberation. The mace, which is sort of meant to prod things along and move forward and persevere. And the bow and arrow, which represents many things, but including, of course, precise aim and even the ensnarement through desire. Many things that are demonstrated here. And you see the regalness of her depiction here. She is a mother goddess, and like the mother, she can be incredibly loving and benevolent, and she can also tell you things like they are. So when we want to clear and ground our energy, when we are asking for protection, we align with this embodiment of grace to bring us the empowerment that we need. Durga Ma is an embodiment that we really connect with when we need perseverance, when we need grounding, when we need obstacles cleared from our path, and when we need to free our energy. And so the elemental forces that we connect here with Durga Ma is primarily earth. Dhum is one of her bij mantras or seed mantras, which is actually the connection with earth itself. So the chanting of Om, Dhum, Durgaye Namaha allows us to connect in with the earth element that she helps us really come into contact with, and allow for that steady groundedness, that energy of groundedness, that connection with earth, connection with our bodies, to allow us to stay in our power and stay grounded while there are many, many winds of change around us. There is also a fiery element to her, but we'll get into another embodiment of fire in a moment. When might we want to connect with this grace of power? When we need strength, when we need perseverance, when we need to have a little bit more groundedness, literally in our body, even in our spine, to make sure that we're not getting run over by a situation, so that we can really sit in our authority when we need protection. And when we need a cleansing of our own ego, we can connect with these divine embodiments of grace in this way, in particular in Durga Ma. And as I've mentioned, one simple mantra, again, using the power of sound to elevate our consciousness and to connect our consciousness and cohere with the element of earth, is simply Dum as a Bij mantra. Dum for earth. So if you like, you can chant that now, just to get a felt sense of what this earth element feels like in your body. And when you do it, just simply breathe into your belly and chant for one moment. Dum. And here you feel the resonance as you chant this from the belly down the legs and down into the earth. Dum. And once more. Dum. And you feel the coherence of power here in the lower body, because your body is, of course, a beautiful manifestation of all the elements, but certainly the earth element. And if you choose to chant Dum like this, you'll feel that resonant connection with the earth and the earth mother guiding you and keeping you grounded. Now let's go into yet another powerful embodiment of grace who is often very misunderstood in popular culture, and this is none other than Kali Ma. Now, in some Vedic tradition teachings, Kali Ma is an embodiment of Durga Ma, as many goddesses would be considered an embodiment of Durga Ma. But in the tantric traditions, Kali Ma is actually a tantric goddess in her own right, and she is incredibly powerful, as you can get a sense from this showing of her in her benevolent form. So you might be looking at this graphic and thinking like, oh my gosh, if this is a benevolent form, like what does she look like when she's not benevolent? But there's some things here that we want to understand about this, because some people might look at this and say, oh my gosh, this looks demonic. Like, I don't know if I want to connect with this, this so-called embodiment of grace. So let's break that down a little bit, because it's important that we understand what the teachings are actually telling us about this depiction. You see here, for example, that she has a garland of heads. These heads in the stories represent demons. These demons are our own vices. So when she is wearing this garland, she is representing the conquering of our own demons. And here again, you see many weapons, all meant toward self-liberation. The scythe, or again, sort of this blade that she has in her hand, is about cutting away attachments. And this is the medicine that this grace of power really brings to us. She is the ruler of both space and time, and she really teaches us how to cut the crap. It's really part of her embodiment, is to cut the crap, not only out there, but in here. Because as we know, everything that we're seeing out there is an embodiment of in here. None of us are immune from the shadow. And while there is going to be a need to call out the shadow in leaders, in circumstances, we also need to take her medicine to look at our own shadows. It's incredibly important. The more that we clear our own shadows, the more light we will bring into the world. And so here, some of Kali Ma's elemental force medicine, you probably got a sense of the fire behind her, and so most people equate her with that elemental force of fire. But there's a swiftness to her action, as kind of demonstrated by the scythe that she has. She doesn't kind of drag things on and on. She ends them. She cuts them free. And so you have a sense of a lightning force, a very strong force. And sometimes when you connect with this embodiment of the grace of power, you will feel that swiftness in your body. It's one of the reasons why we don't often chant a lot to Kali Ma. And if we do so with care, because if we have cardiac issues, if we have specific health issues, because of the swiftness of her energy, we want to be really careful with how we work with her. it's not to be afraid of her. And there are some mantras that are more soft, in which we can embody the grace of her swiftness and the clearing away of attachments. But some of her mantras are stronger than others. However, she is not a goddess that we need to shy away from, particularly in these times. And it's not even just about bringing her into our bodies or energy field, but noticing and witnessing her magic and her work in the world. And this is happening now. This power of transformation, the lightning fast movement of energy, even the technology that is moving forward at lightning speed, the clearing away of delusion is happening now. And that is part of her grace. So you can notice that in your life. You can notice that in your body, even in your energy. But you can also notice this around you. And instead of being afraid of it, because often we're afraid of change, we're afraid of transformation, we're afraid of seeing the darkness, we can welcome it and know that it is truly for our clarity. That even though it's going to be hard to see some of the things that we're seeing, it's an invitation to cut away what no longer serves. And this is the power of disillusionment that sometimes come with Kali Ma's medicine. So when we want to notice her grace, and when we may even call upon her to help us with our power, is when we need to clear negativity. When we need to clear our own negativity first and foremost, clear our energy, help clear the karmic bonds that enslave us, and open to the spiritual heart. In truth, Kali Ma is one of the most powerful embodiments to help us toward liberation. And this is why Ramana Maharishi and many sages had a very deep and close relationship with her. Because when we're really ready to cut away those attachments, there is no stronger grace than Kali Ma. And of course, she enlivens us with her energy to give us that power to move things forward and clear away what is no longer needed and what no longer serves. Some of her lessons that we see kind of here today in this time, sometimes the truth hurts, and that's okay. We can allow ourselves to grieve. It is important that we grieve. We're all going to be going through different stages of grief in the coming times. We know that part of that stage of grief includes sometimes denial. It's sometimes a, kind of an ego defense thing that we have to do because it takes a minute, right, for us to kind of take in information. And that's okay. We allow for that sort of shock, disbelief, I don't know, discerning what is true, what is not true. We may come to a deep sadness and disappointment, disgust, disillusionment, anger, rage. All of these things are part of the medicine of the grace of transformation. And the lesson here for us is to hold it, not to push it away, not to bypass it, not to pretend that it doesn't exist, but not to be consumed by it either. So in our safe and trusted circles, with dear friends, with those that can help us hold that grief, when we hold this fire, which again is allowing us to feel it in a beautiful container that can be held by love, then the light of fire becomes wisdom. No longer reactivity, but discernment. And this is her power. This is the power of the lightning force. This is the power of fire to transform things into light. And it is powerful and needed medicine for our times, and one that we can all align with. So speaking of wisdom, here's yet another beautiful embodiment of grace fully available to us at this time. And you'll see that as you work with these energies, as you work with these embodiments of grace, in some ways they really do work together. They're not opposites in any way. It's just part of this generating, orchestrating, and destroying force, the God force that we're all a part of. This is part of the generative force here, Saraswati. And here you see the depiction of Saraswati is very, very different from the depiction of Kali Ma. You may get a sense of coolness coming from her, a lightness, and a flow. She's often depicted with water because in fact her name means she who flows. She is felt and understood in the flowing bodies of water, which is our creative energy. And here you see the swan often depicted with her, and the peacock. The swan, of course, here embodying taking the juice of things and creating new possibilities, really an embodiment of creativity. That the swan can even take poison and create nectar from it, because this is the beauty of the creative force that is the Shakti within us all. And here also you see in her hands that she's holding in her hand, it may be hard to see, you may think, oh, what is that, a bar of gold or money? No, it's a book, actually. It's a holy book. And you can see she's holding here an instrument that looks like a sitar, it's a veena. And she's holding a rosary, which we call a mala in our tradition. She is the embodiment of arts and science as part of the pathway to wisdom, understanding that there is no separation. Wisdom flows from learning. Learning comes from not just the analytical side, but the creative side, whether you want to call it the right and left hemispheres, whether you want to call it the Ida and Pingala, whether you want to call it science and music, whatever it is. These things that we have called opposites in the Western culture are not opposites at all. They're actually part of the same flows of divine knowledge. Saraswati Ma is a wonderful embodiment of a grace of power to connect with when we are ready to come into our own creative flow. When we are ready and when we have gathered our strength, we have burned off what no longer serves us, and now we are much more in contact with that creative life force that is within us. We're now ready to really create from a space of beauty and love, and sometimes to express what doesn't feel so beautiful or loving. There's a deep connection with all of these embodiments of grace and energy because they are all embodiments of Shakti. They are all embodiments of the divine life force within us. But Saraswati Ma, as you can see, she's sort of depicted as white. She's kind of to herself because your creative nature is sort of your own. In fact, she's very connected with the sacral chakra, which is the second chakra, kind of in your bladder, sexual organs area, the juiciness of you. Svadhisthana chakra, which is this chakra, the sacral chakra, is actually referred to as one owns abode. This is the seat of your creative life force, which is your creativity. So this is all for you. And as you begin to work with this energy, you'll feel that it guides you towards wisdom, and that is a very, very embodied experience. You can literally feel these flows of creativity move through you as you engage in meditation with her, or as you engage in creativity, which is her lifeblood. This is her body. Finally, one more embodiment of grace that you may have been familiar with, that everyone also very much loves. And this is Lakshmi Ma, an embodiment of grace and power for our times. And, I don't know how much time I have here. Let me just check. Not too much time to get into the story.
However much time you'd like.
Okay, then you know what? I'm going to take a minute to just see if I can recount the story, just a little bit of the depiction of her, because it's very relevant to today's times. And so here you see this depiction, and you see a group of fellows on the left and a group of fellows on the right, and you see the goddess Lakshmi here in the middle, and she's sitting in a serpent, and there seems to be water, even a mountain. What's going on? What is this about? I'll recount the story kind of briefly here to you. Initially, the story begins because there is a sage that is, that is walking, and he sees one of the gods in the Hindu tradition, Indra, kind of the king of the gods, and he's on an elephant, and the sage wants to give him an offering, a blessing. So he offers a garland of flowers to Indra, the king of the gods. And the flowers are actually Lakshmi Ma. They're Lakshmi Ma's blessing, right? Again, this beauty, the beauty of life, being offered here to the king of the gods. But the king of the gods doesn't see the blessing. he doesn't really get it, right? So he's like, oh yeah, thank you, man, walking down the street, whatever. So, because he's the king of the gods, he's sort of like, he's the man. And this nobody walking down the street is just giving him a blessing, but he doesn't see the blessing. So he puts it on the elephant. The elephant's like, what is this? And he throws down the flowers and, kind of stomps on the flowers. Lakshmi Ma doesn't like that very much. And neither does the sage, Vyasa, who basically curses Indra at that time and says, you did not see the blessing. You did not see the blessing that was given to you. And so because of this, now you and your cronies are going to suffer. And from that ensues a larger battle between the gods and the demons, our divine aspects and our not so divine aspects. And the not so divine aspects begin kind of running the show, so much that the gods don't know what to do. They're powerless. So now the divine aspects of ourselves are being beholden to the not so divine aspects of ourselves. And the world is getting so bloody bad that they all realize they need to do something, because the divine feminine has sort of left the premises. She's sort of like, you guys figure it out, like, go play, right? And they're like, oh, we need her. What do we do? So they come together, the demons and the gods, the negative shadow sides and the divine sides, and they begin to churn the ocean. And the way they do it is with this serpent around a mountain. So the mountain, I'll just cut to the chase here. The serpent is our energy. It is the kundalini. The divine feminine arises from the churning of the ocean, which is our consciousness, so that we're bringing about the rise of the divine feminine once again to bring balance and coherence to the universe. And that is essentially the gist of the story. There is more. So a few minutes on Lakshmi Ma. We're familiar with her as the goddess of abundance. And I'm going to go back for a second to this depiction of her and her hands, because the hands here are very relevant. They are the embodiments of grace and abundance and well-being in all of our forms, as human beings and divine beings. One hand holds a pot, and often one hand is depicted with shining gold flowing through. Those two hands represent our worldly abundance, including financial abundance and support and pleasure, because these are all parts of the human experience that can be blessed and honored. The other hands often hold lotuses. These refer to dharma, which is our embodied purpose, our soul expressing out into the world, creating more light and abundance for all, and moksha, which is our soul liberation. So Lakshmi Ma teaches us about abundance, that it's not just material or just spiritual. It's all of it. They are all in alignment and they flow together. Lakshmi Ma, because she rules and governs the heart, in my view, teaches us about the perfect balance of giving and receiving. That abundance naturally flows from opening the heart to devotion, loving ourselves, loving each other, loving this planet, loving the divine, so that the abundance becomes effortless. There is no need for greed, because you are simply in the flow. There is no need for wanting, because you are simply in the flow. You are part and parcel of that divine abundance that flows through you and all things. So her lessons for us are to embrace that paradox of desire, to integrate our shadows, as the story says, to honor the humanness of ourselves, but also make wise choices about how we flow into the abundance. And the way to do that is to open the heart to devotion. Appreciate our abundance. Remember from the story to look for the abundance in everything that we see and appreciate all that we have. As our dear friend Lynn Twist likes to say, what we appreciate appreciates. Yes? And we all experience that. And of course, because she is also an embodiment of beauty, the more that we see the beauty in things, the more that we align with abundance. So with that, I'd like us to do just a brief meditation. I've given you some examples and embodiments of these graces of power. In today's times, I would recommend that however you align with these graces of power, whether you fundamentally see and feel them as part of you and your own divinity because you are not separate from them, or whether you choose to pray to them, to ask for their guidance, to ask them to come into your heart and into your being. You know, these are all just practices, they're methods to help us be more of the divine human being that we are. And so I'm going to lead us through a brief meditation here and invite you to bring these embodiments of grace in whatever form you wish to bring them to you, or that they may just appear. So let's take a moment, and if you are sitting, then allow your feet to really firmly rest on the ground, comfortably, with your spine straight. If you're laying down, then just allow your body to relax. But if you are sitting, then without strain, just allow yourself to be straight so that the energy can really flow well up the spine. And take some nice breath. Feeling what's here, so much grace already with us. Feeling grateful for this very easy connection. And because we want to allow for the embodiment of Shakti fully in our bodies, we're going to consciously breathe in here first in our lower body. Breathing in as we did with the sound Dhum, breathing from the belly into the hips, feeling our legs and our feet so that we are really connected with that divine reservoir of energy from Mother Earth and the beautiful exchange between us with her. Breathing and allowing ourselves to be filled, and if anything needs to release here from the lower body to the earth, that we allow that to move out. And breathing in the fresh energy of the earth element that provides us with stability and strength. And from here, placing some attention in the hips, and the open flow of creative energy that resides here, that we can simply tap into with the breath, breathing into the pelvic bowl. And allowing ourselves to feel flow, letting this energy flow through us effortlessly. Perhaps down the legs and out to the earth, the cooling sensation, or allowing that cooling and even electric sensation to move up the body as well. And now bringing our attention to the midsection, the belly and the heart, the back of the heart, the back, the chest, the lungs, breathing freely. Connecting here with the fire of our digestion and the spaciousness, the air and the spaciousness of our heart, the air in our lungs. And allowing that energy to travel up the back of the head, all around the face, the throat, and above the head, opening even more broadly now, still grounded, but vast in our connection with space. Feeling our connection with heaven and earth. And allowing ourselves to be filled with the divine grace of our energy. And now placing your attention on the back of the heart, I'll invite you to bring in any embodiment of divine grace, of the grace of power that supports and guides you personally to be with you now. And this can be as simple as Spirit, please be with me now. Grace, please be with me now. My ancestors, please be with me now. And simply ask for them to come in and support you in this moment. Notice any changes of sensation, feeling, images, emotions. Honor the relationship with gratitude for these embodiments of grace and power that support you personally and support all of us. Thanking these guides, these supports, knowing that you can connect with them at any time through asking and aligning. Thank them for showing themselves to you. Take a nice breath, and when you're ready, come back into your body space here if you've been brought in. And when you're ready, if you've had your eyes closed, you can open them. I want to give thanks in closing to my teachers who have supported me in the journey and this practice that I just shared with you. Very, very deeply inspired and given to me by one of my teachers, Reverend Rosalind Bruyere, who has made me less dumb about healing and energy over the last 25 years. So thank you, Rosalind, for supporting me to be able to teach this as well.
Thank you so much, Shamini. Put a 1 in the chat, please, if that resonated with you, if you got something out of the beautiful grace talk that Shamini just delivered. I have notes. I literally was like, I love this because I didn't understand all of the beautiful elements of the goddesses and that you could even call upon their energy. and asked to embody them. A dear friend of mine is called Shakti Durga, and she's one of the top healers out of Australia. And I never fully understood the meaning of the beautiful goddess and the energy. And thank you for illuminating that for so many of us. So lots of people resonate. Oh my God, so many ones, millions of ones in the chat. Thank you, everybody. I always like to just check in and see how that landed. And the meditation, Shamini, was just so beautiful and peaceful. And I think just what all of our hearts need. I think you and I have both been on some pretty challenging calls in the last few weeks about the state of the world and what's been happening. And as we all know, the only thing we have control over is ourselves. We're not going to be able to control what somebody else does or doesn't do, how they respond, but our only choice in life is whether to react or to respond. And that's why we gather together for these global coherence pulses, is to build our capacity for resilience. When we're resilient, when we've slept well enough, when we've meditated, when we've honored ourselves, drank enough water, whatever it is, we have a greater capacity for being one to ourselves and honoring the God or goddess within each and every one of us. But as our resources become depleted, so too does our ability to show up as our most valued self and these embodied characteristics of grace that you so beautifully illustrated for us, Shamini.
Yeah, so well spoken, Jen. I really appreciate that. And it is a reminder, we didn't talk science today. Some of you know I'm a science person. Our discussion with Bruce on Tuesday will no doubt be more science oriented in some ways, but still holding the grace, of course. This is really important what you raise, because it is very easy for our nervous systems to get co-opted right now. And I think the big question that many of us have is, how do I move through things, not bypassing them, but also not having my nervous system get hijacked? And I want to name that, as we bring to light all of this shadow, there's a lot of triggering, there's a lot of suffering that many are feeling, that we can feel in the field, whether we feel directly affected or not. And that is very real. And there is a lot of support that we as fellow healers would like to give, I think, to those who are really, really struggling, crestfallen, but also almost re-traumatized, where their nervous systems are getting hijacked. So how do we move forward with this? Some of these elements of grace that I've mentioned, these embodiments can help us with that, but only if we do allow ourselves the grace, space, and boundaries for our practice. That is 100% essential right now. It is not selfish. It is not bypass to come into practice, because it's just too easy to fall into major reactivity. So we have to strike this balance of calling it in, as some people like to say, calling it out when calling in doesn't work. But ultimately, how we do that, the energy with which we move forward now, including, creating leadership models that work, that's going to be everything. The energy that we carry now for the next phase of our work together.
I couldn't agree more, Shamini. I mean, everybody, as you may know, I have 180 tools that I've literally cultivated over the last 20 years. And people say, why do you have 180 tools? Why do you spend 2 hours a day in prayer and meditation? Because I definitely have Kali energy and I would destroy myself in the world if left to my own devices. And so that's why I've cultivated this list of 180 tools. It's public, by the way. I've shared it on socials, or I'll put it in the chat if anybody wants it, because many people have asked for it over the years. I'm called to share 2 of them, though, that could be beneficial for any of us out there struggling. I don't know about you, Shamini. I find inner child work is such a simple, basic practice that I do heart focused breathing every morning right after my meditation. And I immediately go into inner child work after that, because I find if I do the heart focused breathing and then I tap into the little girl inside me and I ask her how she's feeling, what was astounding to me in this last week, I spent a lot of time crying in this last week, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I hear you. Mm-hmm.
A lot of energy, but a lot of the time I don't even know I'm sad. Like this last week, it was in my face. Yes, I'm very sad and distraught and upset about the state of the world. But a lot of time, 44-year-old Jen is like, we're sad. Like I'll check in with my inner child. She'll be like, I'm sad or angry. And I'm like, shit, what are we sad or angry about, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm a huge, huge fan of inner child work if nobody's ever tried it. And the other thing that one of my teachers taught me last year when I went through, for any of you who feel like you're an empath, put a 1 in the chat, because I have a feeling we have a lot of empathic people who are here. And something one of my teachers taught me last year is I started realizing I could jump in and out of other people's awareness, and I was getting really sick because I knew nothing about energy healing or any of this. So you know what she taught me to do? And I would be curious your thoughts on this, Shamini, being one of the leading people in the world on quantum healing, is I put on an energetic wetsuit every morning. So part of my last practice is I visualize all of my chakras being balanced, and she has me visualize core consciousness and light coming down. And then last thing, I kind of push out my auric field and feel its boundaries, feel if I'm feeling strong or depleted. And then I visualize an energetic wetsuit, and I literally stick each foot in, each arm up, and then
I love that.
I
I've never heard of that.
I had never heard of it
Interesting.
either, but I love it. So for anybody out there who's feeling a little traumatized by the state of the world, try an energetic wetsuit or inner child work. That's my 2 cents.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love what you shared about the inner child too. When we get together with Bruce on Tuesday, our real focus is going to be on, moving forward as conscious creators. And that's not going to be a bypass conversation, but really about it's very linked to inner child from my point of view. Maybe that's because my inner child likes to play a lot. So, she really comes about with my creative work. She's very present there. But yes, connecting with these different aspects of ourselves because and some of them will be shadow aspects because we need to face those as well. This checking in is important and the part of us that wants to create needs to be set free now. This is
Mm,
really important. So this is also about coming into our authenticity, not being afraid to express, whether it's expressing anguish, allowing ourselves to cry in safe space, all of that. Sometimes beautiful things have been created from grief and even anger. We don't have a lot of time today, but rage is a very interesting emotion and one that is honestly considered holy in many traditions, including some of the East Asian traditions, because divine wrath can be used in different ways. And as we talked about earlier with Kalima, that one of the wonderful uses of divine wrath is to hold the rage, watch it, and allow it to create clarity of action for us, right? So there are many, many ways to connect. And I love the energetic wetsuit. And I love the sense of feeling where your energetic boundaries are because there is this need to understand sometimes where am I feeling myself and where am I feeling others? Now, we're all alive in a sea of energy and it's non local. And that can feel really overwhelming to some of us who are empathic. But this is why I would suggest the grounding elements here are really key. And this is something that Rosalind has taught us over the years, just even as healers. You don't run out of energy and you don't have to worry about being slimed if you're connected to the reservoir of life force and grounded in your body. So I would recommend that all of us remind ourselves not to come out of our bodies. And the minute we feel kind of knocked off, it's a great time to ground. And if we want beautiful grounded neutrality, let's go outside. Because while humans are a little crazy right now, nature's just there. And she's such great medicine for us right now.
mm. So true, Shamini. I love that. A friend of mine has, I think, a book or a show out called Be Human Medicine. I have to connect you guys if we haven't already done that because we are our own medicine. Nature is our medicine. Everything is here to reflect and to help us grow. And it's funny, the rage element you bring up. A couple of years back, I was doing a podcast called Regarding Consciousness, and I remember Neil Donald Walsh came on, and we were talking about his book, Conversations with God. And at the time, I'm very literal being autistic, and sometimes I have it that things are good or bad, light or dark, like very right or wrong, right? And Neil and I were debating, and it was so much fun. He totally debated with me. He's like, I said anger was wrong. I was like, ooh, anger's bad. Whack-a-mole, bad anger. Get back in your whole anger, right? And I will always remember that Neil said, Jen, anger is powerful. In religious times, you look at Jesus, he threw over these tables. I didn't even know this happening. It like created great change, or you see. So, but it's beautiful to tie it into the goddesses that you just shared. You could have the strength of somebody like Martin Luther King Jr., who to me, I think would be more of Saraswati, maybe. Like that would be more MLK's energy for me, was just that like peaceful internal knowing. And then you have these other thought leaders who are more Kali and who are just burn everything to the ground and rebuild. And it's all there. And not one of them is good or bad or right or wrong. We all embody all of them. And the more we can do, as you so beautifully pointed out, Shamini, the shadow work. Look at ourselves. There's a practice I do every evening before bed that a teacher taught me about 10 years ago, and I call it spiritual accounting. So every night as I get ready for bed, I write notes in my notes section of my phone, and I write down, how could I have lived today better? Was I rude? Was I inconsiderate? Did I eat an extra piece of cake or pizza? Or was I unkind to myself or others? Did I miss a meditation or qigong or something I was committed to? And it's not from a place of judgment, but looking at what are the shadow aspects of myself, my impatience perhaps that I haven't quite worked on enough. And by shining the light on it, we get to look at that. Then I write down, what am I proud of myself for? Where did I embody grace? Where was I kind and considerate instead of judgmental? And then I write down my miracles and what I'm grateful for. And it's a very simple practice just to always be in what the Kabbalists call teshuvah, like in a state of reflection and repentance of every day we're born and we die every day. And then we get up and we do it again. And we have an opportunity to constantly be in the inquiry of who do I choose to be today? And no matter what happened yesterday or what will happen tomorrow, we have a say in how and who we show up in the world as, right?
Yeah, 100%, Jen. 100%. And the beauty of the embodiments of grace is that we are all of it. And when we feel that we need some support or balance or harmony, then we can call upon these embodiments to kind of bring us back more into balance and harmony when we feel off balance.
Yeah, that's it. And speaking of which, I did put the 180 tools for everybody in the chat. I tried to see if I could add it as a PDF, but you have to click on the Google Doc and then you can download it as a PDF. There's no catch. It's just there for free. Higher Self told me you have to put your list out there for people. So enjoy that. And speaking of which, Shamini, a lot of people loved your presentation. And some of the folks in the chat were messaging earlier and asking if there's going to be a way for them to have access to the PowerPoint. I don't know if there is or is not, but I just promised them I would ask.
I can look into that. I do have a lot online. For those of you who might be interested in this, and I'm really not trying to upsell here, but this was one of my favorite courses that I did with the Shift Network. If you really wanted to dive deeper into this, I have a course with the Shift Network called Voicing the Goddess. I'm hoping if you just Google Voicing the Goddess, or maybe it's
Looking
on
it
my
up right
website.
now. I
I think
found
it's
it
on
and
my website as well. And I really recommend that course. I think they have it as an evergreen course. And it has these goddesses, but more of them in it, and just a little bit of depth, more depth in it. So the PowerPoints that I shared are very much in there, but there's a lot more in those PowerPoints and specific practices, mantras, so that you can really have a felt sense of these goddesses for yourself. So I would recommend, honestly, if you're interested in that. I also teach, I have a few different in-person gatherings and some more online things that will be happening later this year. But for anyone who's feeling spontaneous, I think there are about 3 spots left in my Esalen retreat, which is happening next week. I think on the 2nd, Esalen in Big Sur. And if you have not been there, you really should come. And it's a small group. We're capping it at 40. So it's not going to be a giant group. We're doing it by design so that we can do some really deep work. That's called Free Your Energy, Transform Your Life. I'll be speaking about the graces there, but we'll also be doing some science. And then later in the year, I'll be speaking at Shivananda Ashram on this very thing. We'll be teaching and doing more embodied practice with the graces of power. And that's going to be, I think, in November as well. So if you go to my website, you'll figure that all out. And I think we're putting a link in the chat. There is a practice that I wanted to share with you all. It's a grounding with sound practice. You know, there's only so much time we have to share different things in a short amount of time. But that grounding with sound practice is a very nourishing way of kind of getting connected with the earth element. So you could look for that. And then there's more info on the website of various things.
Why don't we have Kaylin bring those links up? The one for the Tuesday events, we can just go there and I'll put that in the chat again, and then your free gift. Let's do that right now, since
That's
we're
great.
talking
I see
about
Jen's
it.
free gift. Yeah, and that takes you to the website and you can peruse around there at your leisure. But that is the free. I see now, Teresa, thank you. You just put this link in with this event with me and Bruce. I think all of you probably know Bruce Lipton really well. I'm just so grateful for his presence in the universe right now, honestly. He's just a lovely and brilliant, bright human being. And I'm really, really excited for our conversation on Tuesday.
Do you want to share something about your free gift here and what else is on your website?
Yes, yes. So here we have the grounding with sound practice. So just put in your name and email, and you'll get an email directly to download that. And there's actually another conversation with me and Bruce that we did a year or two ago on being a conscious creator that you'll get as well. And then if you tool around, you'll see many things. I'm going to warn you that my debut album, Kali Yuga Blues, is very heavy. Most of it is heavy. There's a beautiful song. It's all sort of the experience of life through chakras. There's a whole explanation. I'm not going to get into it. There is a really fun video on there, though, called Surefire Love, which represents the heart chakra, which has board members from my nonprofit, fellow musicians, family members. If you need a good laugh, you can go to Surefire Love's video, and I highly recommend it. Actually, it will make you laugh. I'm very, very proud of that video. I think the director did a great job with it. So yeah, events, all the things, you can check it out. Check out our nonprofit Consciousness and Healing Initiative. We have live gatherings every month and workshops as well with leading lights in the healing community. And there's science here too, because that's been a lot of my background and something that I'm still very passionate about teaching. So lots of links, books, all kinds of things.
Thank you so much for all of the generous offerings that you do. I know. Yeah,
I
incredible.
I love this, Shamini. Yeah, we put the links in there. Go ahead and click on the link for the free gift. And I just realized this morning, I was referencing Shakti Durga earlier. She gave an offer. If anybody wants it, I'll put it in the chat. If anybody you know of is struggling with healing right now, I remember a couple of years ago, our housekeeper's son was deathly ill and modern medicine couldn't help him. And Shakti, one of her healers, came in and donated her time to help heal our housekeeper's son and literally saved his life. If you know, or if you personally are struggling and cannot afford energy healing, I know Shamini is a huge advocate and done some of the best research in the world on it. A friend of mine, Shakti Durga, has trained 10,000 healers. Her healers get paid and they do sessions for you for free if you can't afford it. So I just put it in the chat in this time where so many people are struggling with
Yeah.
mental health and anxiety. The email is right there in the chat for you, liftadmin@thewbi.org for those of you who are watching the replay. Again, liftadmin@thewbi.org, and you can get free healing. And speaking of which, Shamini, I want to be sure we mention your free gift. So in case people don't see this, if they weren't live with us, if you'd like Shamini's free gift, you can go to Shamini Jain,
Oh, you
Shamini.
froze for me. I don't know if I'm frozen or you are, Jen.
Oh, am I frozen? I don't know.
Not for me.
Okay, it's shaminijan.com/free gift. So I think you can see it here for those of you watching online.
Yes,
But
great.
Jess, do we have any other upcoming
Jennifer, I
things we want
put
to
your
promote?
link in the chat. Next, we can just go to Jennifer Hill. So if you want to stay connected to Jennifer, we love having you as a guest speaker on the Pulse, and your partnership has always been fantastic. But Jennifer's doing so much good work in the world. Come and check out her website and see the things that she's doing and stay in touch with her. She's got a new book coming out pretty soon, which we can't wait. And we'll let you know. Jennifer, say something about your new book.
So I just put in the chat, try not to laugh, guys, but I have something, one of my favorite tools. It might be included, I think it is on the 180 tools list. It's called the anti-asshole prayer. So if you go to antiassholeprayer.com, you'll get a list of my 21 favorite morning mantras, including what I affectionately call my anti-asshole prayer. And that'll give you access to the book coming out later this year, which is called The Recovering Asshole. So I was not kidding when I said I have Kali energy. I used to be completely self-destructive, unregulated, and not a kind person to myself and others. So I lay it all bare in the upcoming book coming out later this year, which my mom has given her blessing. It's it opens with a story about my mom. She's like, honey, I want my whole book club to read it. But the point is that, no matter where you're at on your journey, no matter how much or little of your shadow you're aware of or unaware of, we all can transform. And it just takes baby steps every little day. I've been building a practice of 2 hours over the last 13 years, and that's my goal. That's why I created this list of 180 tools. My gift, my dream for the whole world is that every human being has a deep, meaningful relationship with themselves, others, and purpose. So that's my dream. So if you go to antiassholeprayer.com, you'll be put on the waiting list for the book and be one of the first ones to receive it.
I love you so much. And if you want to, Jennifer's doing some beautiful writing too. If you look her up on LinkedIn, you can actually join her there, and you'll get some wonderful updates from Jennifer. And just wonderful tools all the time. I really appreciate
Oh,
how honest and authentic and inspiring that you are. I really appreciate it so much.
thank you, T. I just put in the chat the LinkedIn. It's so funny. I'm so not
Okay.
used to promoting myself. Thank God. I'm just going to carry you around in my pocket. I'm like, I just like to zip my mouth. But if you would do one, I do write a weekly newsletter called Inspired Living Tools, totally free on LinkedIn. And you can get different things like how not to whack-a-mole your anger, like we were just talking about.
Yeah, it's really worth doing it. Just go to LinkedIn and click it, and you'll just love getting the weekly newsletter coming into your inbox. And then, Kaylin, we just have a couple more links. If you are not a part of the connection field yet, please join us in the connection field. This is the year where we really need to be together in community. And the more we're around other people who are really authentically choosing to cultivate greater coherence in the heart of their lives, to be in community, to help us to really anchor that as an embodied practice, the connection field is here for you, and it's free to join. So please join us. And then the next link is that if you're interested in really practicing more of harmonic leadership, Julie Kroll has a program inside the connection field called the Imaginal Souls. And it's a powerful group that are really diving deep into what does it mean to be a leader in these challenging and potentiated times. So you have an opportunity to join a deeper group inside of the connection field. And then the last link we had yesterday, we did the harmonic emergence event. And if you weren't able to join us yesterday, the replay is available now on this page, and I'll put these links in the chat for you. And there's an opportunity for you to stay connected with the different presenters that she had. It was a powerful, powerful event. So I hope you take some time. You'll enjoy it. It was heartwarming. It was potent, and yet left us all feeling like there's a new energy present for us to choose. So thank you, Kaylin, for showing all those wonderful sites, and I'm putting the links in the chat. And then I hand it back over to you, Jennifer and Shamini, for any last words. You have a little bit of time before we need to close off.
Beautiful. Well, I think we may have lost Shamini. I know she froze there for a
Oh,
moment. I just texted her to see if she's okay. I don't know if she's still here. We can add her, Kaylin. I'm not sure if we can.
I'll look and
On
see.
this note, though, as you were just sharing about our beloved Julie Kroll, who I'm not sure if she's still here, but I wanted to share something that she shared that really rocked my world on a call we were on earlier this week. I'm going to try not to tear up because it's so beautiful and poignant for what we've all been talking about this evening and in this state of the world. We were talking about the idea of cancer cells and how cancer cells interact with the body. And Julie said something. She said, Jen, did you know cancer cells are just cells that have forgotten they're connected to source?
Mm.
So I invite us all as we go out in the world and as it's tempting to want to judge ourselves, to want to judge others, can we lead with love? Can we lead with love and not fear in this time heartbreaking where we're having more pain than we've ever had before? And can we lead with love and not fear? And can we remember that even the darkest parts of ourselves, even the things that we may disagree with or find reprehensible, can we look for the love in that? Can we see the spark of light? I'm going to leave you with something that was shared with me in a vision I had a couple of years ago. A healer friend of mine, Keith Hodges, here in Lisbon, graciously offered to gift me a session. And I'm actually going to be talking about this in a pulse in April, but I'll give you a little taste of it right now. Essentially what happened was Keith said, mate, I want to gift you a session and thank you for all the wonderful people you connect me with. For those of you who don't know me, my favorite pastime is connecting thousands of people around the world. There's nothing that brings me greater joy. And I said, sure, that would be lovely. So I didn't even know what sort of healing session this would be. And it's 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday in December of 2024. And Keith gets on. He says, okay, well, what do you want to work on? And I said, well, I'd like to work on this fear I have that I have to save the world and that I'm failing. Essentially, since I was a little girl, 5 years old, 13 years old, I'd have these reoccurring nightmares that I failed to save the world. And Keith's a British guy. He's like, okay, mate, that's perfect. Let's do that. So next thing I don't even know what to expect in the session. He starts intoning and chanting. And whoosh, space and time fell away. And I began to hear the softest, sweetest laughter. And it was the universe. And the universe said to me, you are so cute. There is nothing and no one to save, and there never has been. but your only purpose, and the purpose of every human being, is to remember the spark of light in yourself. And when you've done that, once you've remembered that spark of light in yourself, then your only purpose is to look for and listen for that spark of light in everyone you meet and reflect it back to those who have forgotten their divine spark. So I invite us all to use this time to rekindle that divine spark of light in ourselves. And then when we see out in the world things that may crush us, hurt us, disappoint us, despair us, can we still look for the spark of light in that person, in that circumstance? And together we'll be able to illuminate the world no matter how dark it gets. So I leave you with that today, and blessings to everybody. It is always a privilege and honor to be here. Thank you, T. Thank you, Kaylin. Thank you to all of you who have shared your heart today.
I just asked Kaylin if maybe since we have this time, he'll just close with the video that we opened with. It was played yesterday at the beginning of the harmonic emergence. So if you need to go, you can go. But if you wanted just like a little music to take you home, then we'll have that. And he might need just a minute to set that up. And thank you, Jennifer, for such a beautiful session today with Shamini.
Oh,
love you all.
Much love, everyone. Have a beautiful day, evening.
Thank you, Kaylin, for bringing this on.
I am the fire, I am the spark, I am the light, I am the dark. You are the poem, you are the prayer. We are the truth, we are the we are, we are, we are, I am. We are, we are, we are, I am. I am.
Much love, everyone. Have a beautiful weekend.
Love you all. Let's ride that fire horse right to the future equal to our full potential. Blessings, everyone.